Hello, and thank you so much for listening to the Trip Leader podcast series. I'm your host, Ely Khoury, and today we have an awesome speaker with us to talk to us about a really important topic that many schools around the country are deliberating on. Many of your peers are looking towards the direction of incorporating global travel and global studies into the lower school. Today with me is a great friend of mine, Melissa Fox. She is the academic dean of the lower school and the interim assistant head of school in the lower school. We've known each other for, I want to say, a couple years now?
Mm-hmm.
A couple years, and working together on an excellent experience in Greece next summer. She had one experience already with her lower school in Italy and has got tremendous feedback. Melissa, thank you so much for being on today.
Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. I love working with your school. We had an earlier session with Dr. Simard Newman a few months ago and Claudia Velandia, and Canon is close to my heart. Love working with you guys, and Greece has been fun.
Greece, I'm so excited about Greece.
I'm excited too. And I think what our listeners really want to know, and our listeners are made up of language teachers, directors of global studies, heads of school, history teachers. They want to know, okay, how do we get involved with the young ones, right? We're doing it already with middle schools and upper schools. And since you're the trailblazer, I figured you'd be the expert on this.
Well, I will try to share our experience so far. So the way we got into global travel with our little ones is we started thinking about global learning and education and what that looks like with our youngest learners. Our school has students from 4 years old all the way to 19 years old in our upper school. And in our lower school, it's junior K or pre-K through 4th grade. Most travel programs deal with students who are middle school and above. So we were just trying to think about what makes sense for the littlest ones. What does global learning mean? What does global education mean? Because it can mean something just as simple as how you interact with those around you to something as big as traveling across the ocean. So as we started looking at traveling across the ocean, because we think that is a valuable experience for kids and adults of all ages, we started looking into international travel and started talking with our colleagues in the different divisions on how they did it, who they've worked with, what tips they could provide for us, and that is how we got into all of the travel with our students. And picking the location was the next biggest thing for us, what makes sense. We didn't want to double dip with our other divisions, and then we wanted to pick something that would be interesting to kids as well as adults. Because really in planning for the lower school, you're planning for two different age groups, the little ones, and then you're planning for the parents. So you kind of have a unique experience because you want it to be educational for the students, but you also want it to be relevant and fun for the parents as well.
Well, in a lot of schools, they don't incorporate parents into the older ages purely because they don't want to sell to two different people.
Right.
They want to sell to the student, right? It's the student's experience. But when you do have parents and students, and you deal with this in middle school and definitely in lower school,
yes,
even on a 2-to-1 ratio,
correct,
with parents, you're really, I guess I'd love to know, how do you keep it student-focused and educational with such a high proportion of parents?
So I think number one is picking the right vendor, the right company that knows the unique needs of your group. We traveled with a big company to Italy, but we partnered with you for Greece because you all offer more of an individualized experience where you get to know what our needs are and then plan accordingly. So I think finding the right match as far as travel companies is number one. Because if you are looking for a personalized experience, you may not find that with the big box companies, but if you're looking for something that's well planned out that you don't have to think a lot about, that may be more your speed, but it's what you're looking for and what's going to best match your needs.
Right. And I guess, what were the main things you took away from your peers in the middle and upper school to start creating this frame? What were you looking for, other than the vendors, I suppose?
Right. So one was location. One was how are we going to get little ones across the ocean and not have meltdowns and things of that nature. Was it really going to be something that they had takeaways from when we got back? Was it going to be worth the money that was spent to go? We were also looking at something that was going to be a family experience because we are not a neighborhood school, so we wanted an experience where families who live all over the Charlotte area could come together and have this experience together. We also wanted our students to get to know each other better because they may have seen each other in the hallways, but we wanted them to have that time together as well. So that's what we really talked with our colleagues about. What does that look like? What are some things you need to think about when you're getting ready for these experiences? And what do we need to think about when we're on these experiences? Because theirs is a bit different. They have to think about chaperoning, and they have to think about permission slips and things that we didn't necessarily have to look at. So that was, something we kind of had to filter through as well.
And what, thinking about the overall logistics, the day-to-day.
Yeah.
What kind of areas do you need to be more aware of than you wouldn't have to be as aware of with young adults and teenagers?
So for our little ones, we really need the meat of the day to happen earlier in the morning. So if we're going to go on a tour, it needs to happen earlier, like 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, if we can possibly do it.
Right.
So that about early afternoon, those that need a break can have time to take a break. We also felt that it was important to have some structure time where we're all together, but also to have families be able to explore and have free time on their own as a family. So it could be kind of a mixture of together time versus exploration on your own time and family time. We needed both of those.
Right, because the parents, they're going to want to have their own agenda at certain times.
Correct.
The proportion is tipping. When I say that, I mean, so when you go on just from my experience, and I'm sure many of the schools can resonate, when you go with a group of upper schoolers, you don't, I guess, give them the autonomy because they're not paying for it, right? They're along for the itinerary. When parents go with one student, 2 parents, right, there's a certain level of autonomy that is expected in certain parts of the day.
Yes.
So we try to balance that.
Yes.
And that's where the pre-itinerary process comes into play, is we want to make sure that's built in.
Correct.
To the itinerary. And you make a good point about being up early. Is a lot of the older students, they want to sleep a little bit more. So there's subtle differences here and there.
And I can't say that our little ones don't like to sleep in either, but having that morning time where it's action packed and then having a more subtle afternoon and evening works best for them. So if they can have time to just chill, if they need to chill, or if they want to go and do something that's not on our itinerary, they can go do that. And then also having a few grounding times for meals together. Not every night, but a few with traditional dishes that they may not order when they're out in a restaurant, wherever we are.
Right, exactly. Get them out of their comfort zone just a little bit, little tastes.
Yes.
Little tastes to come back.
Exposure.
And I personally saw how much effort you put into the information meeting for Greece. Why is pre-exposure, or whatever you would call it in the academic world, because I'm not an academic, why is that so important for these students to kind of see?
Sure. Well, so it's actually twofold. Our preparation meetings are more like a cultural fair. So the way that we set it up is we have different experiences, and families who are going or even not going can come and experience a culture. So whether it be a little bit, and it's very introductory, but a little bit of language, a little bit of the geography, a little bit of hands-on building, trying and looking at monuments and special places. So for that part, that's one way we bring the global here for those who can't travel. The other piece of that is for the kids who are going, they have some familiarity with what they're going to see. They have some knowledge, background to build on once we get to where we are going. So then when we get to the different locations, whether it's Greece or Italy or whatever, they can say, oh, this is what we were talking about, and the connections are made. What
a good idea. And something else that you did right there that I picked up on just because of who I am is that is sales 101. When you give someone something for free before asking for something, an experience, it gives them something to latch on to. So many schools do the traditional information meeting, or let's meet in a classroom, let's do a PowerPoint, we'll show you what it is, sign up for it.
Yes.
But here, we got Greek flags, we got Greek food, we were wearing Greek T-shirts. It's totally different a preparation process. And these kids, what proportion would you say have cell phones?
In the lower school, it's more of our 3rd and 4th graders.
Okay.
I would say it's sprinkled down lower than that, but I would say 50-75% of our kids, 3rd and 4th grade, have some kind of device that they can use to communicate, whether it's text or phone call.
And you know what? That's just a small percentage compared to the 100% in middle school or upper school. These kids already have context. Yes. So you don't need to lecture them on a new place, but with a child that young, seeing something and touching something and saying, all right, I haven't seen this before, I haven't really heard of this before, this is really cool, I want to do it. And it reflects in your numbers.
Yes.
We have a full program?
We have a full program. And I will say, that was one of our lessons learned from Italy to our Greece experience. Italy, we did the traditional invite parents in for the information session. We had maybe 4 parents total in the audience. We had no way of knowing who was interested beyond those people who were sitting there. It wasn't exciting. It didn't excite us, even though we tried to make it as exciting as we could possibly make it. And most of the people that were sitting in the audience didn't go on the experience. They were other people. So we didn't want to do that again. We wanted to do something that was hands-on, that was interactive, that got people excited about what we were doing. And so that's how we went to the cultural fair, where anybody who wanted to come could come, and then once they got there, they were sold.
Well, and you're creating a culture of cultural fairs. So the students that come into the school and the parents that enroll their students for your lower school know it creates this buzz. Our students are going to be exposed to a cultural fair every year that is going to have some other country's customs, food, pictures, colors, flags. And even if we don't know if we want to go, we go on the trip. We're going to go check that out, because we may learn something new. Right. And that is already kind of exposing these students to the world without them having to travel.
Right. Because we have families who are excited about traveling, and they're nervous about taking their younger children, which is the appeal of what we are doing. We have others who are not interested in traveling because it scares them. And so that's one way we can bring what we've learned and what we are experiencing back to everyone here.
Right. And you have such tremendous parents at this
really
school. They have been, I haven't had an issue with any of them in the lower school or in the upper school. So it's just been a pleasure working with them and the students. And I look forward to being with them in Greece. And I guess, so let's talk efficacy of the experience. Have you created metrics to measure its success, or what are those metrics?
So that is in the works now, because like I said, with our Italy trip, we went in blind somewhat, learning as we went. What we learned from that experience moving into the Greece is, one, putting more questionnaires like, are you interested? What's the level of interest? Can we follow up with you? How do you want to follow up? So just learning more about who is clicking on our links and learning about our experiences. And then following our experience, for Italy, we did ask for parent reflections. We had a few questions for them. And, was it valuable? Would you do it again? What would you change? What would you not change? Things like that from a parent's perspective. And then we had the kids kind of give their own version, not so structured, but just what did you take away from the experience? So that was kind of what we did before.
Can I dive into some of that feedback?
Absolutely. So the kids, for some of them, it was the food. There were certain favorite foods that they loved while they were over there.
How much pizza did they eat? Be honest.
Actually, they did not eat that much pizza. I can remember
that's more than I can say for the upper school.
Maybe twice. Now, we ate some pasta. But they all tried the different dishes when we had our meals together that were, 5 courses. They tried them. Their absolute favorite day, and this was across the board, parents and kids, was when we went to San Gimignano. And that is where we kind of went into one of the vineyards and got to learn about how that works. And then their second favorite, or maybe its equal favorite, was when we got to make Italian dishes together.
Right.
And so they learned how to make linguine and ravioli, and
it's always a hit.
And then we all made it from scratch, and then they actually made our dinner from the pasta that we made.